where does Derrick Rose fit in terms of, or not fit, where does he sit in the annals of Chicago basketball greatness in your minds?
I don't have to think about that too much. I say top 5. He's in
I
top
clearly
5.
think that. Oh, easy. I actually struggle with not just top 5. I struggle with, is he 1? Because I look at that, and as great as Isaiah was, as great as Aguirre was, as great as D Wade was,
Right.
in a short period of time, Derrick Rose produced something that nobody else has ever produced.
Yep.
And it's hard to look away from that, man. I feel cheated, actually, knowing that we didn't get to see all of it, because I thought there's still so much more that we never got to see from Derrick Rose, which is interesting, too. Yeah, I don't know if you and Agee been hearing about this, man, but when I love hearing former players who played against Derrick Rose, and they're just like, man, you know what? I'm not going to even lie.
Mm-hmm.
I used to character Derrick Rose flu. Like, they're like, when Derrick Rose would come into town, they was like, we didn't want to play him. Like, I heard one guy, man, he was like, literally, this was his quote. He said, man, the guys that people love now, he said, these are your heroes now. He was like, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving, so forth and so on. He said, those guys didn't want to see Derrick Rose in the gym. you know?
Yes.
I mean, that's just insane to me to know how great he was, which begs the question here. Has Derrick Rose done enough to be a Hall of Famer?
That's the thing for me. I don't even know what categorizes certain people or the writers or whoever vote. What all goes into the pot to say you are a Hall of Famer? I don't know. Eric, I mean,
the Basketball Hall of Fame is it's interesting. Some people have their complaints about it, that it's, there's too many people in it. Some people have their complaints about it, that, the selections at times can be inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to be said about the impact on the game that goes well beyond numbers. And from that perspective, and remember, it's the Basketball Hall of Fame. It's not the NBA Hall of Fame. So we get to take into account what he did at Memphis. We get to take into account what he did as a high school star. It's interesting. From a numbers perspective, and I just pulled it up over here on my other screen.
Mm-hmm.
He still averaged 17.5 points a game for his career. And he's on a very special list.
Yeah.
Right? And the list goes a couple of ways. It's someone who became a star in his hometown and had a tremendous impact. He obviously was the youngest MVP, I believe, ever. And then he's unfortunately on a list with Penny Hardaway and Grant Hill as probably the 3 greatest what ifs.
What
if they did not have to deal with all of these injuries? Because we know what the talent was.
Yep.
We know what there was really no ceiling for any of them. They could have been generational greatness at minimum, if not all-time greatness, right? So I think time will tell, but I don't think whether he gets in or not eventually should have any effect on how he's looked at in the history of the game. So
I say he in just off impact alone.
I think he deserves to be in there. I think he puts enough. I think he did enough to qualify. But again, it depends on who's, what's the criteria.
What's the criteria?
Like Eric said, at what they're going for. But I'm kind of, you brought up a name, Grant Hill, and I'm thinking Grant Hill had a very similar situation in terms of injury, even like Derrick Rose, man, where after his injury, he came back. He wasn't, the elite Grant Hill, but he was definitely still. And this is crazy. These guys, because we don't see their eliteness, but they're still averaging like 20 points in the game. We're like, oh, that's not good enough. It's like, what? Just to get 20 points a game in the league.
Grant Hill continued to contribute to winning.
Yes.
Yep.
And
he did.
and reinvented himself. And Penny did too. And I don't know how you guys I'm sure we consume a lot of vintage throwback NBA on YouTube. So the things that show up on my like recommended NBA videos tend to be very interesting. Something popped up a couple of weeks ago where it was like Penny with Phoenix in 2000, just like going right at Kobe Bryant and giving him the business. But it wasn't that crazy athleticism Orlando.
Yeah.
It was more of this veteran float game, take my time, get to my spot. And again, Penny Hardaway, Grant Hill, Derrick Rose, that's a special group. And unfortunately, health and injuries are part of this game that we love so much, as you guys have both lived and experienced. And
absolutely. Not just from an injury perspective. Listen, I had the privilege of playing against both of those dudes, Grant Hill and Penny Hardaway. Listen, Penny was in our conference, so I saw that dude twice a year, man. It wasn't that nice, man.
What was Penny like to face back then the first time? What was that experience like?
First of all, how people, when they say, man, they when they saw Magic Johnson being the point guard, that's Penny in the in 19 early 90s.
Yeah.
Yep.
We talk about the 5'5". Penny was a 5'1". Like,
Yeah.
I mean, his greatness stood out. I'll never forget this one play in particular. And this is against me because, we ran a 3-guard offense at Marquette. And I was the biggest of the 3 guards. So I always had to guard the small forward. So I'm guarding Penny. I strip Penny. Penny lets me get all the way up and down the court, flying. Get up to the rim, man. If Penny didn't go up there with 2 hands, grab my stuff in the air, hit it on the backboard, turned around and go back down the other court and pop a 3. That was his level of greatness. That he's just one of those guys, man. You see that that they are just before their time. When people talk about footwork, they don't talk about Penny with that a lot, but Penny has some of the best footwork I have ever seen in my life. And I'm not going to even talk about jumping ability, man. That's insane.
Hey, Will, I want to can't leave out his passing ability.
Come on, man. Listen,
he's throwing looks. I'm talking about. Oh, this was in college.
Listen, and the crazy thing is, Memphis wasn't really, when he was there, wasn't really that great of a team, but they went to the Final Four with that dude. Because of that dude. That's how great they were, man. I mean,